This is the Aqara U100 Smart Lock. It's one of 3 smart locks right now that actually works with Apple HomeKey. HomeKey is where you can tap your Apple Watch or iPhone right up to the lock and it unlocks without opening an app or putting in a passcode. But the U100 can actually be opened a bunch of different ways. With a fingerprint scan, you can enter a numeric passcode, and if all else fails, there's still a physical keyhole right there on the lock. And even with all those features, this is still the most inexpensive HomeKey lock you can get. Before we get into installing the smart lock, let's talk about design. On Aqara's website, supposedly it comes in 2 colors, a dark gray and a silver. This is the silver right here on their website, but I actually can't find it here in the US. As far as I can tell here in the US, on Amazon and elsewhere, the only thing I can find is this dark gray version. Now when it comes to design, it's a very utilitarian design. I mean, it's a square rectangle, it's on your door, pretty chunky on the back and the front, but you do get a ton of features, including that built-in keypad, which we'll talk about in a second. So it's not as sleek as the Level Lock Plus or offer as many color options as the Level Lock or the Schlage Encode, which are the 2 other HomeKey locks. But if you're okay with the design, then you actually get a ton of features packed into this. Like I mentioned, you can open it with HomeKey, a tap of the watch or your iPhone. You can open it with the Home app just by using that, or the Aqara app. You can use the fingerprint ID scanner. You can unlock it with a passcode, and it actually has a really cool feature called anti-peep passwords. That means you can actually enter a bunch of numbers on the keypad, and as long as you put in your passcode to unlock the device somewhere in the middle, it will recognize and still unlock. So if you're afraid of someone looking over your shoulder, this is a really cool feature. And while you don't see it, there's actually a little slide down to put in a physical key if all else fails, and it comes with 2 in the box. Once you install it, it runs on 4 AA batteries, which Aqara says will last up to 8 months. Now I've had mine in for a little over a week, and so if we take a look at what the battery is right now, it's actually still reading as 100%, so that 8-month time span might be pretty accurate. Now if the batteries do run out, and let's say you don't have your physical key, there's actually a USB-C port underneath the lock on the outside or the exterior of the house. So if you have a power bank or an outlet you can plug a USB-C cable in, you can actually temporarily power this lock and then unlock it via fingerprint, Touch ID, or HomeKey. The lock is of course water resistant, so you don't have to worry about rain. And the lock actually has a built-in gyroscope, so it will try and detect whether or not the door is open or not. This has been about 80% accurate for me, but I actually also have a contact sensor on the door alongside this lock, so I can tell for sure whether or not the door is closed in the Home app. Let's talk about installation. I removed a deadbolt that was already in the door and replaced it with the U100. Aqara actually has a great video that walks you through step by step on installing it. I will say once you put those batteries in, it's going to start talking to you, and mine started talking to me in a language I didn't necessarily understand. But don't worry, that's not a big deal. Once you pair it with the Aqara app, you can change the language and then turn off all voice or audio commands, which I did immediately. Now once you get it installed and you're ready to set it up, you can actually pair it just in the Apple Home app and not install the Aqara app at all or use the Aqara app at all. That HomeKit code on the inside of the lock lets you pair it. But if you do choose to bind this with an Aqara hub, especially one that's Matter enabled, this lock actually becomes a Matter enabled lock as well. So you can set it up in multiple ways, just in the Apple Home app, just in the Aqara app, both, or with Matter. Now I chose to do both the Aqara and the HomeKit app because I use them both with some automations. I set it up first in HomeKit and then tried to add it to the Aqara app, and that was a little strange. So if you're setting it up for the first time and you plan to use it with the Aqara app and Apple Home, I would recommend go ahead and set it up in the Aqara app, bind it to an Aqara hub. It also begins to respond a little faster because it's communicating over Zigbee rather than the Bluetooth connection, Bluetooth 5.0, with your iPhone. And then once it's set up in the Aqara app, then go ahead and add it to the Home app. And one more time, you do not need an Aqara hub to use this lock inside the Apple Home app. If all you have is an Apple TV or HomePod and you're running your Apple HomeKit home, you're good to go. You do not need the Aqara hub to use this lock. So let's talk about HomeKey and HomeKit integration with the U100. As I said, it's one of 3 locks that uses HomeKey. This is Apple's Unlock Your Door HomeKey feature. HomeKey works with this lock, the U100 from Aqara. It also works with the Schlage Encode, which is about $300, and the Level Lock Plus, which is $330. Now, depending on the feature set and your designs, again, this is the most inexpensive option. Now, this was actually my first HomeKey enabled lock, and I have to say, it's pretty awesome. I thought it was responding a little slow at first. I would just hold up my Apple Watch. You don't have to pull up the pass key or open the wallet app on the watch at all. You literally just tap your watch to it. And it was a little slow at first, but then I realized you do have to get pretty close. I put my Apple Watch right up against the number pad of the U100, and then it unlocks pretty quickly. The other great thing about HomeKey is that the other members of my family, which my spouse and 2 kids are a part of my Apple Home, I actually didn't have to do anything for them. They immediately had access to this HomeKey and they could lift their Apple Watch to the lock after a few minutes of setting up in the Apple Home app, and they were good to go with HomeKey. They didn't have to do anything. Now, when you want to set a passcode for the U100, this gets a little wonky too, especially if you're doing the dual life in the Aqara app and the HomeKey app. If you go into the Aqara app and then you go into this lock, there actually is a place for user management to add passcodes, but this is not syncing with your Apple Home, and I would actually recommend, if you're going to do the Apple Home side, just manage your passcodes for family members there. You can do this directly in the Home app. Just go to your Home settings, scroll down to where you see locks here in your Home settings, and now you can actually set passcodes for each individual person. You'll see here I have a personal access code already set. I can go in and change that access code for myself, and then add access codes for each family member, change or remove them. It's nice for everyone to have their own unique access code. This way, when they unlock it with that, you can tell who's actually entering the house. You can set those activity notifications here in the Home app. Then it will tell you who has unlocked the door when they use their passcode or when they open it with HomeKey on their watch or iPhone. Now here in the Home app, under the lock settings, you can also choose to manage access and give a guest access. Now, as far as I can tell and what we have seen, there's still not a way to share HomeKey specifically where someone could tap their Apple Watch to the lock and then unlock it. So if you want a guest to have access, the easiest way to do it is actually to set a guest passcode. You can actually name it so you know when they unlock it, and then set that number here. Then they'll use that on the keypad. I did find that locking and unlocking the U100 from inside the Home app here, like if I were to tap the lock, it takes a few seconds to actually respond. I think to communicate over Bluetooth or to go through whatever Home Hub and then to the lock, depending on its location in the house, it might be a little slow. I find using the Aqara app to lock and unlock it much faster. But again, I'm mostly using HomeKey, or if not my fingerprint, which I actually found works every time. That fingerprint reader was very accurate, and so that's how I'm unlocking it, and then it's not a big deal. Overall, the HomeKit experience is really good. HomeKey works really well and fast with the Apple Watch, and if you have multiple family members in that Home app, all that HomeKey sharing works seamlessly, really fast. I love it. Now, when it comes to automations, for instance, if you try to set up an automation so when anyone arrives home that it's going to unlock that U100, you're going to see this message for any smart home device that has to do with entry in the Apple Home app, meaning a garage door opening and closing, a door lock opening and closing. It's going to show a notification on the screen when you arrive home, and you'll have to tap it to unlock. I understand why Apple does it, it's security and all that, but if you want even more automation options, then actually using the Aqara app with an Aqara hub gives you way more features. For instance, you can set auto locking, so when someone leaves or when it senses that the door has closed, it will automatically lock it. They have things like passage mode, where if you do a little shortcut on the keypad, it will remain unlocked until you physically lock it again. If you want notifications from the Aqara app and the Home app, you can do something like away mode, which will notify you whenever it's unlocked. And if you do want to set up automations for when you arrive and leave, you can do this in the Aqara app. It is a beta feature, so if I hit the plus icon and go to the if side, there is a location or position option where when you arrive at a position like your house, but you do need to allow the Aqara app to have constant access to your location, and Aqara even says that this is a beta or lab feature. So these kinds of automations I would do at your own risk. I personally am not setting up any automations like this, and HomeKey works plenty fast with an Apple Watch that I don't need to unlock as soon as I pull in the garage. I could just hold my watch up, that's totally fine. Again, once I set it up and did bind it to an Aqara hub, I've been managing it exclusively in the Apple Home app and doing all the HomeKit features, not really even messing with the Aqara app, and it's been working great. Unlocking with HomeKey, fingerprint, you can set those passcodes in the Apple Home app, so you don't even have to go to the Aqara app for that, and it works great in the Apple Home ecosystem. The only thing you will have to go to the Aqara app for is if you want to add fingerprints in order to unlock, you go to the user management section here in the Aqara app, and then you can add general users, and then you can do a passcode, fingerprint, and Aqara also sells some bespoke NFC tags if you want to use that to unlock it as well. Overall, the installation was easy, setup was pretty seamless. Just do the Aqara app first and then HomeKit if you're doing both, or just do it in HomeKit and never touch the Aqara app. But after all that, it's been working reliably, consistently. HomeKey works great. And again, I love the passcode option, especially with kids and the fingerprint reader. And overall, I just think this is the best value smart lock you can get. It is $190 right now with a $25 coupon on Amazon. So you're talking $165 for a HomeKey, a pin pad, fingerprint scanner, and 2 physical keys in the box. And they even include the 4 AA batteries. I mean, that's pretty good. Compare this to the Schlage Encode, which is about $300. You do get some other color options, and if you just like the design of this better, you can do that. And the Level Lock Plus, which is kind of the quote-unquote nicest and most discreet lock, I would think. It does come in multiple colors, but you are paying $330 for that Level Lock Plus. Again, when it comes to reliability, I have found the U100 very solid. Every time I try to use HomeKey, it unlocks. Fingerprint scanner has worked 100% of the time. And the passcode thing, it's been a little weird. Sometimes you have to tap it to wake it up and then enter the passcode. But once I wake it up and do it, it's always worked. I'll put a link to the Aqara U100 on Amazon down in the video description, and if you have any questions about this lock or HomeKit in general, leave a comment below, hit the like button, and if you haven't yet, you should check out my entire 100% Apple HomeKit home tour. You can see that video above, and it's going to come right after the video. I also have my favorite Apple HomeKit automations, some outdoor HomeKit gear, and a ton more. Thanks for tuning in, and definitely check out one of these videos right here.